Oh, they're coming in. Welcome, folks. Just finishing up, setting everything up for you lovely folks. Say hi in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Oh, you folks must be in with us normal. You're already moving it over to all panelists, all attendees. Fantastic. Hope everyone's doing well. What a beautiful, beautiful couple of days we've had here in Toronto. Hello, Nova Scotia. I saw some Boston there. I saw New Jersey. Guys, it went by really fast. Niagara Falls, Toronto, more Toronto folks. Welcome all. Welcome, Perry Sound. Few minutes, folks, and then we're going to get settled in and get into today's fun. I'm really excited. This is going to be a fantastic webinar today. So please do, if you haven't, check us out on our Facebook group. Hello, Vancouver. We'd love to have you in our Facebook group. If you're not with us in our Circle Time group, we'd love to have you join us. Please do make sure to answer all your questions. They're there just to keep the community safe, folks. So we'd love to have you. Hello, Durham. Hello there, Mississippi. Welcome, folks. Some more folks from out in the BC area. Glad to have you guys. Kansas, Virginia. Hello, some Head Start programs. Hello, South Africa. Happy Thursday, everyone. May 20th. Where's time gone, everybody? I just don't know. Hello, PA, Colorado, New York. Make sure, folks, too, for just joining us to pop over your chat to all panelists, all attendees. This way everyone can see your fantastic questions, or if you're adding to anything, just want to make sure everyone can see everybody. So obviously word-wise. Hello, you guys are just waiting for the next historical event. I don't know what that will be. Hopefully it's no more COVID. Hopefully no more COVID, but we're getting there. Hello, New Jersey. A couple of you folks down from New Jersey. Welcome, everybody. Nashville? Haven't been to Nashville yet. It's on the bucket list, though. 2 or 3 minutes, folks. We're going to get started here. Get into the fun. We have tons packed in today's session, so we're not going to keep you waiting. Hello, hi, Mama. Welcome, New Jersey. New York, Texas. Great variety here today. I'm very excited. Shannonville, Hawaii, aloha. I think I saw the Philippines just fly by there, and Guam. Welcome back if you're joining us again. I need like a fade out button for the music. Cue the music, folks. All right, I think we're going to get started. Welcome back if you're joining us for another time. And if you are joining us for your first time, I've seen a couple of folks who've seen us here or just coming in for the first time. Welcome to Hi Mama Helps webinar series. Today we're talking about reading and math, a two duo that goes together that like none other. And I wouldn't have thought about it this way until I actually got to sneak peek at the presentation, and it actually kind of blew my mind a little bit. So I'm excited to dive in. Let's take care of our housekeeping stuff here first, and then we're going to jump into all of the great fun stuff. Of course, we would rather just jump into all the great fun stuff, but we'd always like to make sure that if you are joining us, please, 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 please do not take anything we say as financial or legal advice. I am probably the last person you would like to be giving you one of those two things. So please, if you are looking for any support, make sure to connect up with the people in your community. If you're looking for anything when it comes down to your center, make sure to connect with your licensing rep. And once again, legal or financial advisor in anything that you might be implementing. We want you to take away great tips and tricks and techniques from today. So I'm super excited for today's session to bring on our special guest in a few minutes. But before we do that, we're going to start out with our land acknowledgement. So let's give a quick listen.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And then we're just going to jump in here, give a quick listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
As always, folks, housekeeping tips for especially if any of you folks who are joining us are new. The session is fully recorded, so we will make the whole session available to you with closed captions. If you also need those on, you can hit the CC tab and it should appear up for you. So if you do need that for whatever superpower you have, then please do use that. Along with the recording will come the certificate and the show notes, and you can expect everything out early next week. So please just keep your eyes out. We will be sending them out over the course of the next coming days. So please, don't be shy. It will be coming to you. Last but not least, if you're having any issues with Zoom, please do seek support.zoom.us. They're just the best people. They know their product the best when it comes to any issues that are happening with Zoom. So please don't be shy if you do need help to seek their support. They're the best there, folks. Before we jump into all the fun stuff, I'm going to run a quick poll before I do quick intros here. So grab your poll sharing here. I can't click on anything for some reason. Here we go. Here we go. Please do answer a couple questions to the poll. We're just excited to learn a little bit more about who you are and how you track. We're talking about, math. We're talking about reading, so literacy development, math skills, things like that. Would love to know a little bit more about how you do. So go ahead there, pop in the poll answers. I know a variety of answers actually come through this. I can say for myself, being an educator, when I worked in the classroom, for us, a lot of on the paper. It was very much what we were doing when it came to like any of our documentation. And then if you wanted to learn a little bit more, we'd be more than happy to reach out and have a conversation with you. So just let us know there. I'm going to give you guys one or two more seconds here just to give that up a quick answer, and then I'm going to end it up and dump into all the fun stuff of today. So quite a few educators joining us today. Very exciting. Tons of educators out there. Going to give you 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds if you want to give us a little quick poll answer, and then we'll close it up. Tons of you would like to learn a little bit more. Tons of you are still doing paper documentation, combination of online documentation. Fantastic. Okay, folks, we're going to end that up. So it's all over. Sadly, you won't be able to answer that anymore. No worries though. Okay, let's jump in. Fun stuff of today. If you've never met me, welcome to Hi Mama Helps webinar. I'm Maria. I'm one of the community ambassadors here at Hi Mama, and I'm also a registered early childhood educator. Fun fact for me, I got my first vaccine on Sunday. So excited. I felt pretty wiped out on Monday, but it's c'est la vie. It's what happens, and I'd rather be safe than sorry. On the chat is my fantastic colleague, Kaya. Kaya is also an educator. Do you have any fun facts for us here today, Kaya? I know you had a great one last week.
Yeah, that was the watermelon one, eh?
Yeah.
That's always a hot topic. No fun fact, but I do have a call of action. We are really looking for amazing people that we can bring on to our future webinars, specifically with like loose parts. I know a lot of folks are interested in that. So if you have anyone in your network that you know that is already doing presentations or has a lot of great materials, maybe online on their website, send them my way. I might regret giving out my email right now, but just email me, Kaya@himama.com, KIAH@himama.com. Send me who you recommend, and I will get connected with them. We would love to have someone that you know from your network come chat with us all about loose parts, or really anyone. Send them my way.
Send us all of them. Yeah. I'm excited for us to talk a little bit more about and actually get a loose parts webinar. I know this was a huge piece of topic last week when we were diving through some of the chat. Folks, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to introduce our special guest of today. Stuart, please do come on, give us a quick join here. Stuart is fantastic, folks. Not only is he an author, visual learning strategist. Stuart, maybe give us a fun fact or two before I hand over the reins and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. One thing about myself that I think just about everybody knows already, so it's not a big secret, is that my favorite ice cream is pistachio. And that's why I have a book called Probably Pistachio, but give me pistachio ice cream and I am yours.
You and my husband, you guys would get along so well. Also his favorite, any pistachio cake, just like anything to do with pistachio, and it's like gold. I'm super excited, Stuart, for you to be talking to us today and having you on. So I want to say thank you again for joining us today. I'm going to stop my share here and let you get set up. And then from there, Stuart's going to take it over, and I'm going to stop talking because really, at the end of the day, you guys are here to see Stuart. I'm super excited.
Okay, now I just have to hit my share screen, right?
Yes, sir. You got it.
And
he's all ready, guys.
And there we are. Okay.
There we go. It's all yours, Stuart. Take her away.
Thank you very much for that great introduction and lead in. I'm joining you all from Boston, Massachusetts. I was quickly scanning the chat box, and I noticed there are at least 3 or 4 other Bostonians on there. So hello to you and my neighbors, and hello to everyone across the country, across Canada, across the world. It's absolutely great to see the wide variety of people who are here with us today. As you know, my topic today is reading and math together, and it's an important topic. It's one that's really significant because it's about the notion of learning mathematics in the context of stories. Learning mathematics in the context of things that we do with our kids. And so I want to get into that. Let's see, I am not moving forward. Let's see, I'm stuck in where I am. So Ria, could you move me forward? It looks like I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Maybe just click your mouse, Stuart.
I did. Let's see. It's just making a noise and not moving forward.
Interesting. Minor technical. Okay, hang tight.
By the way, we did a dry run yesterday. It was moving forward perfectly, doing exactly what I'm doing right now, but it's not doing that right now. So could you move me forward?
Interesting. I also cannot move you forward. Okay, hang tight. We'll fix this. Hold on 2 seconds.
Okay, so while you're fixing it, so in the meantime, the weather is great here. I hope it is where you are. And there I am back in my space. This is my studio that I think you're seeing now. So all we have to do is get that. By the way, in the background, those are some original pieces of artwork from some of my Math Start books. Some of you may recognize them. There's the dog with the sock up there. And now let's see.
I may have to move forward for you, Stuart. So just, I think I'm going to have to do it for you, but please do just say when. I'm sorry about that.
About my background already, that I have series of 63 books called Math Start. And they're in 3 levels. The first level is for pre-K and K. So it's really an incredible set of books for that age level for very young children that deal with mathematics and teaching math for that level. It's probably the largest resource of books for pre-K and K students in mathematics. I also have a series called I See, I Learn that's published by Charlesbridge Publishing. And that's a series of 16 books that teach social, emotional, health and safety, and cognitive skills to children. And I'm going to be touching on that a little bit today because that too fits into the topic that I'm going to be speaking on. And then finally, for Pearson Education, which is now called Savvis Learning, as many of you know, I'm an author on Envision Math, which is a huge international comprehensive elementary math program. And then my series called I See, I Learn has been published as an educational program called I See, I Learn at School. Next, please. So the things I like to talk about are visual learning. And in 2019, I did a Heimbubble podcast that was heavily based on visual learning and visual learning strategies for kids. And so I'm not going to repeat much of that today, although that is one of my favorite topics. And so I'm bound to mention it as we go through how kids learn from visual stimuli like charts and graphs and diagrams and photos. Teaching math is a life skill. I mean, so many kids think of math as a school skill, and it is not a school skill. It is a life skill, just like reading and just like the other things we learn. And so we want to make sure that our kids and their parents, our students and their parents, understand that math is indeed a life skill, a skill that's very important for their success in school and in life. Teaching math through storytelling. I love to tell stories and stories in my books and stories just verbally. And I think that's really a good way to approach mathematics education. We're going to talk today, of course, about communicating about mathematics and what an important thing that is to make it part of our language, really. And then supporting math skills with social emotional skills. You can't learn much if you don't have those social emotional skills of cooperation and getting along with others and self-regulation. And we're going to talk about positive attitudes toward math, developing positive attitudes toward mathematics. And finally, I guess my favorite of all is being creative about math. And so these are topics that are near and dear to me. They turn me on, they get me excited. And so as I'm talking today, or as you're thinking about questions that you may want to ask me in the chat, you might think back on these topics as things that are really important to me. And so next,
Hi, sorry, Stuart, go right ahead and maybe give it a click. I think I might have fixed it.
Nope, it's not.
Oh, I tried. Okay,
Okay, it's not moving on mine. Okay, so we're going to hit what is visual learning, because I talk about that, and one of the things I worry about when I mention that is that we're not always talking about the same thing. So as I already said, it really is about acquiring and communicating information. So think about that a little bit, that first part of that sentence: acquiring, taking the stuff in, and communicating for giving the stuff out. So how you draw about math, how you make models about math, or how you acquire math visually. That's what visual learning in mathematics is all about. And I already mentioned that it covers all of these areas like diagrams and illustrations and icons and symbols. It's really about making sense of complex data using visual models. Next. So research has shown that visual learning theory is especially appropriate to the attainment of math skills. It's kind of like math is an international language in itself. So it already is an international language, and then visual learning is an international language. And so you don't need to have the same language to understand the pictures, to understand the models. And so I think that this is a really important combination. I put the credit up for a couple of the books that I'm going to be talking about because I think they might want to end up in your library. Thinking Like Mathematicians is still in print. It was published and then republished, and then about 3 years ago republished again. And while one of the authors has passed away, one is still alive, and so it's been around for a little while with updates. But I think it's an important book to have in any math teacher's library. Next. So my favorite quote of all, of course, is Einstein, about Einstein in Walter Isaacson's book. What Einstein was able to do was to think visually. And that's what we want our kids to do too. Next. So I'm going to start with a book of mine called Seaweed Soup, and I'll kind of paraphrase the book because I don't want to take up too much time reading every word in the book, but still, I want to start with the cover because that's where everyone should start reading a book when reading to young children, is to talk about the cover and giving kids a little bit of context. And so you know that probably the maker of the seaweed soup is going to be Turtle, and that he's got a bunch of friends, and his friends are going to be involved in the story very definitely, including Sandpiper and Seagull, and across Crab, and there's that little clam down there. Next. So poor Turtle is making seaweed soup. He's as happy as could be. He's out there on the beach in his kitchen. He's mixing and stirring and making the stinkiest, smelliest, gooeyest, most disgusting seaweed soup he can. He just can't wait to try it out. So he put four things on the table. He put a bright red cup for gooseberry juice, because everyone knows that's what you drink when you're eating seaweed soup, a great big spoon, a napkin, and one of his nicest bowls. Look at that, kids. 1, 2, 3, 4 items to eat his seaweed soup. So he invited Crab to join him, and Crab sat down at the table, and Crab took his place, and Turtle went and found another four things for himself to eat with. Another nice napkin, kind of a smaller spoon because he didn't have one big one, so a little substitution going on there. Another bowl, and then kind of a white glass, just a glass because he didn't have another cup. So now there are four things for Turtle and four things for Crab. And how many things in all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, he convinced Sandpiper and Seagull to come down. They were a little bit uncertain because it was stinky and smelly and gooey, and they had tried to fly away. But he said, no, no, come down and join us. And they said, well, we sure can't say no to our friend. And so they came down and joined him. And one took over Turtle's place setting, and Seagull down there got a cracked bowl instead, and a plastic cup, and a napkin still, and a spoon, whereas Turtle ended up also with a cracked bowl, a little spoon, a napkin, and a jelly jar. He's really having to substitute a lot. We now have four animals, and they each have four things to eat with. How many things in all? We could do a little multiplication, or we could count them up, count even sets. And then what happened was that Clam was coming out of the sand, and Turtle saw him just in time. And he called up Clam, and he said, come on, Clam, you can join us too. But then he left the table, and he went to find four things to eat with himself. And he couldn't find anything. He didn't have any more bowls, not another spoon, no napkins, no cups. He was gone a very long time. And they decided that they would try the seaweed soup. Well, they looked at that bowl of seaweed soup, and they made Clam start, even though it was stinky and smelly. No one wanted to try it. Well, lo and behold, they ate it, and they ate it, and they ate it because it was so good until it was entirely gone. Just then, wouldn't you know it, Turtle came back, and he found something to eat with, all four things. He found a towel that he could use for a napkin. He found a seashell that he could use for a cup, a pail that he could use for a bowl, and a shovel in the sand that he could use for a spoon. Now let's eat that soup. Well, they were really upset to have to tell him that they, in fact, had eaten the entire bowl of seaweed soup because he was gone so long. And then they looked at him, and he walked away from the table, and they said, now look what we've done. We were trying to be nice to our friend, but look at that. Look at that. He's left the table. We've really messed up. But then Turtle said, they said, well, he's mad at us. What will we do? Said Crab. But then Turtle turned around with the entire another pot of seaweed soup, just as green and gooey and slimy and just as smelly as the first one. He said, you can never make too much seaweed soup. And they ate, and they slurped until that pot of seaweed soup was gone too. Now, I end the book with a little review because the little review is just flashed by, so we can go back to that. And I ended up with a little review of all the sets because this is for young children. I haven't mentioned the word, I wouldn't have mentioned the word multiplication to them. And, but we could get there because look at this. We've got the little chart. We've got 5 different animals and they each have 4 things. We have the things that each of them ate with, including the things that turtle ate with at the very end. And if we start at the beginning, we can either count them and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Or we can count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20. We ended up with the same number. And somebody may know that 5 times 4 equals 20. And that's my story called Seaweed Soup. Now, early childhood educators use storybooks and visual models all the time to help kids learn not only their math skills, but their social emotional skills. Now, you may have noticed that there were some social emotional skills built into that story as well. People joining their friend, even though it was a little risky. People sitting around the table, being with one another. And then going off on the wrong path and eating all the soup while Turtle was away, and then making up for it by joining him in the party at the end when they gobbled up the second bowl of seaweed soup. So let's talk about social emotional skills as well as about mathematics skills. I think we need to remember and think about the fact that self-regulation is the number one precursor to literacy acquisition. And there's another book at the bottom that I'm going to recommend to people, Teaching and Learning in Preschool. Many of you probably have that on your shelf already. If you don't, it's a good thing to get. It is still in print. It's published originally by the International Reading Society, now called the International Literary Society. And it is an important book to have because it has lots of tips and lots of help for all of us who are involved with young children. And what they said about the precursor to literacy acquisition is the same thing, the same is true about mathematics, that being able to regulate your own behavior is an important foundational skill to the study of mathematics. So self-regulation is a life skill that it goes across all development domains, promoting social relationships, self-control, a positive work ethic, and problem-solving abilities. So it's everywhere. It's a part of us. It's a part of the fiber of who we are, how we control our own behaviors, and how we work together with others. And research has shown that children learn self-control and social emotional skills, not only from watching their parents, in other words, modeling, from their teachers, from their peers, but also by observing characters in books and other media. So when you see them in books and other media and you see good behavior, you can use that as a learning opportunity for children. And when you see bad behaviors, you can use those as learning opportunities for children. What would you do instead? How would you act differently? What could have been done differently in this particular case? How do you feel? Emotional development refers to the skills necessary to foster a secure attachment with adults and maintain healthy relationships. So this is a little bit of a repetition, but it comes from Head Start. I noticed there were some Head Start teachers in the chat, and I wanted to point it out too, because it kind of reinforces what was said earlier. And it also kind of takes just a step further and talks about the healthy concept of a personal identity, a well-being, and how important that is to kids being successful in early childhood education. So here's a book. I also mentioned that I have a series of books that are called I See, I Learn, and that deal with social emotional skills. And so here's a book that is called Percy Gets Upset. It's available, this book is available in English, it's available in Spanish, and it's available in an edition that has the combination of the 2 languages in the same book, which is the one that I'm showing here. Percy gets really upset during the course of this story. And again, I'm going to spend more time kind of paraphrasing it because I want to make sure that we have time to cover everything and that I have time to answer your questions at the end. But what happened is in the beginning, he couldn't find his shoe and he got very frustrated. He stamped his feet. Bad behavior, terrible feeling. He was frustrated. Where's my shoe? I can't find it. I can't find it. And he's really angry, very upset, very frustrated. And there it is. His mother finds it right under the chair. Calm down, she said. Here it is. And so at the end of the story, he goes through quite a number of situations like that where he didn't want to go to bed. He didn't want to eat his dinner. He didn't want to stop playing with his friend. He didn't want to go to bed. And in each of those instances, there was not only an identification of the problem, frustration, grouchiness, being cranky, being angry, and all the manifestations of being upset and how you feel. But in each case, just like the first one I showed you, there is a solution to it, a strategy for dealing with it. Calm down, stop and think, take a deep breath, talk about it, count to 10. Really important skills for children to have as they become students in schools and work with other children. Another book in that same series, I'm not going to be able to read the book, but it's called Camille's Team, and it's about teamwork and cooperation, the very important skill of cooperation. As you can see, it takes place on the beach, and 4 characters from the series, Camille herself, who's wearing that swimsuit, got her hands on her hips right up front, and her friends, Carlos and Frida and Percy in the background, all building sandcastles, and the ups and downs of their sandcastle activity until they work together as a team, cooperate, and make good things happen. At the end of the story is another graphic organizer that tells how you do that. How do you cooperate? You make a plan, you work together, you share the fun, and that equals cooperation. And besides reading stories, this goes back to that same book that I already recommended. And besides reading stories and shared reading experiences, read alouds are great ways to provide wonderful opportunities for children to hear about and discuss the emotions and social interactions of the characters in books. And by presenting models of those behaviors within the context to which young children can readily relate, storybooks can be a powerful tool. And also story dictation. This comes from a teacher in Chicago who does story dictation, which, as she says when she talks about it herself, takes a long time. Having kids write little stories that might have math and illustration ideas and stories within them or emotional things in them, and writing them down for them as they're dictated to you by a young child. But the payoff is big. The payoff is big because they become the author. You've allowed them, given them a chance to become the author of their own story. So I talked about, before I veer too far here into STEM, I've talked about reading and math together in my book that is the in my book called Seaweed Soup. And I talked about it because I want to just delve a little way. I veered off into the social emotional aspect of learning the foundational skills of social emotional learning as a foundation to learning math skills. But the focus on my talk was really about mathematics in the context of stories. And of course, you remember that story now, and it was about even sets, and it has a great opportunity to show kids how even sets are important and to learn about even sets through counting, and then through counting by fives, and then through actually taking the very early steps, the beginning steps toward learning how to multiply. I also want to talk a little bit about STEM because we all know, of course, that there's been great emphasis in Canada, the US, and other countries on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. A great emphasis on the importance of these skills, particularly as life skills, as future job skills. And I told you that one of my favorite topics is um, creativity in math. And this was designed actually, so we were having just a little trouble with the engineering of why I can't move it forward. That A was supposed to pop up and replace the M. And so it was supposed to go from STEM to STEAM, but you can see it as STEAM right now. So it moves from STEM to STEAM because our kids need the arts too. And they need the arts in mathematics, they need creativity in mathematics, and in every other subject they learn. So I'm all behind. I know there are a lot of STEAM movements across Canada, and I've been to some of those STEAM places in the United States, STEAM rooms and classrooms, or STEAM corners and a math teacher's work area or sharing area. And I think it's just great when you, as mathematics educators, you who are dealing with young children in mathematics, consider the arts and consider the ideas that unfold toward getting kids to be creative about math, to create stories about math, to draw pictures about math, to communicate about math, and to the other things about mathematics that we want them to do. We want our students to talk about math. Sketching about math is really important. I think you learn more from little sketches about math than you do probably from kids doing necessarily repeated equations or whatever they might be doing, because you can kind of see what they're thinking. And if you can see what they're thinking, you can see where you need to do more work and more homework with the kids. And then writing about math, writing their own stories about math. I put pictures, words, and math in all my stories, and I encourage kids to do that, to put pictures, words, and math together to write their own stories. We also want our students to be able to express their ideas. So that goes back to the STEAM idea, to find ways to express their ideas creatively and with adults and with other children, and to demonstrate their understanding so that we really understand what they understand. We understand what they know, and then we can work with that. And then finally, I've repeated this twice now, explore their creativity about math, make it fun, make it enjoyable, make it part of their lives, make it a part of how they communicate. So here's some kids doing it. And so these are obviously pictures that kids created and that they created about math, in this case, geometry, in this case, the basic shapes, and creating a little city using the basic shapes, and therefore getting to understand their attributes, the attributes of each of the shapes, and then writing their own story about math in the context of stories. Here's another version, same kind of thing, and the story, different shapes, but you can see this one was a sailboat on a pond somewhere with the sun shining and dark sky behind, and a little story about that, and again, the reference to the attributes of the basic shapes. And moving to the three-dimensional and the relationship of a circle to a cone, of a square to a cube or a rectangular prism, and then building cities out of the 3D shapes, but also recognizing the 2D shapes from which they derive. Another example, great ideas from the kids. I loved seeing these things. I love seeing these projects. Interactive learning about mathematics. For children to be successful, you as teachers, us as educators, we have to infuse that can do and can't wait to do attitude in them, which is why I move so heavily into the social emotional part of this discussion today. We want them to not be excited about math, not be put off by math, and think of their everyday math practice, your everyday math practice, as being embedded with the idea that, hey, we can do this. This is great. We're moving forward. This is fun to do, and we can really move to the next step and learn more, and can't wait to do it. Our young children need to be fully engaged in acquiring new math skills, so right there for it. Persistent in completing their work. Come on, we can get it done. We love doing it, and motivated to advance their mathematical knowledge. So one way to do that is to rely on storybooks. And so therefore, I'm going to veer off in just another direction for just a little bit here. I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but I think it needs reinforcement, and that is the whole idea of contextual learning. The notion that learning in the context of a story or learning in the context of a life experience is a really important thing. And so the idea that it is also important to learn math as basic math as a math skill, and just make sure you understand the mathematics. But I also think that it's really important to put it in a context, and storybooks Stories that you tell, other people's books, not just mine, are important vehicles for doing that and give you an opportunity to do that, to show how that mathematics is used in real life, how Turtle used mathematics in his story. And when you think about it, that we really don't want our kids, we don't want another generation of kids growing up saying, when am I ever going to use that? What am I ever going to do with that? We want to be able to show them what they're going to do with that, make them a part of it, and really get them excited about how they're using it, and be able to take those skills into their own real world experiences. So therefore, I think some classroom strategies that you can do to help make that happen, that are important for you to do to help make that happen, for me to do, for, again, all of us as educators to do, is in your classroom or on your screens, however you're teaching these days, display materials that help to explain ideas. If you're going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes, have some materials that the kids can see, have them posted so they can see them casually in your room, have them on the screen if you're starting a virtual class, so that kids can kind of start thinking about them themselves. If you're thinking about multiple sets, have some multiple sets. You don't have to explain them, just have them as a kind of a screensaver, or have them on the wall, and or send something home to the parents to paste on the refrigerator that just have multiple sets of pieces of fruit or something like that. That could be things that explain ideas and kind of show kids and get them thinking about these new ideas that they're going to be learning and that you're going to be working with in your classroom and in your lessons. Have students search for their own real life examples and then report on their findings. I want to dwell in that particular strategy on the second part of that, because I think we have all had kids go out and look for shapes in real life situations, or look for things they can count in real life situations, or things they can multiply or divide in real life situations. I think the reporting on their findings to the rest of their class on the screen or at home or at school is a really important part of learning how to communicate about math. Learning how that they really understand it. Look what I found. Look what you can do with this. So all of these four objects each have 5 parts. Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They all have the 5 parts. What does that tell us? How many parts in all are there? And have them do that reporting and interaction with the class, which gives them a chance to communicate about math, to again demonstrate their understandings, and to be the star of the day, to show what they know. And so I think it's really important. Work with students to create stories that include mathematical ideas. Well, we've talked a lot about that already. That's what I do. That's what my work is all about. And I think if the kids create their own stories that include mathematical ideas, I just, in fact, was the judge on in English, something that it takes place in the UK, of kids who win prizes. It's a competition for kids who write stories about mathematics. And I can tell you that that once unleashed, kids can be extremely creative, and their ideas just flow. And I think you can do that. We can all do that in our own classrooms. That would be just great to be able to do that with kids. And they get very proud of it. They show them off. They show them to their parents and grandparents, their stories and their mathematical ideas. I think we should encourage students to sketch as a natural part of their math note-taking process. I already talked about why I value sketching in math so much. When kids make a diagram or show you what's going on or make a map. I love kids making maps because they show their knowledge of dimension and scale and placement, things in relation to one another. And so I think having kids have a sketchbook or sketch pages or whatever is easy for you to have, and take notes and have a notebook about math that includes sketches is a great way for kids to express themselves and to be a part of the learning and to show what they know. Grouping students to work together to create models of any new concept that you're coming up with, I think is a good thing to do too, because then they can take advantage of each other's knowledge. And so some of them might know more about the topic than others. Some of them might have one skill and another skill, and they can put those together and come up with a really great idea. I'll give you one example. I don't have it to show, but you'll get the picture. And that is a teacher that I know, this is a 5-year-old story, teacher that I know is going to be teaching estimation skills to her kids. And she grouped kids together into groups of 4 or 5, and they each created a poster that sold the idea of estimation to the rest of the class. And one of them that I saw was really cute. It had the kids saying that you don't have to know the exact time, but you better know the about time. And there was a picture of a kid running for a bus and had just missed it. A kid trying to turn on the TV and just missed their program they wanted to watch. Another kid that didn't have quite enough money at a counter to buy what he was buying. And so you better be able to estimate what you got. And you don't have to know the right number, the exact number all the time, but you better know the about number. Estimation is an important skill. So that might give you an idea of some things that you could do with just about any math topic, that you could have some kids make a presentation to sell the topic to the rest of the students. And of course, some of you may think this sounds a little self-serving to have a math literature library when I write books about math, but there are other people who write books about math too. And I think by having a math literature library in your classroom, in your school's library, or encouraged in people's homes, if they can do that, or wherever, that is something that I think is really important, because it shows the meshing together of story and mathematics and how those two skills work together to provide excellent learning, contextual learning for our children. And then, of course, I always end with the creative one, create visual models to help bring math to life, to really make math come alive for our students. And that's what we want. That's what we want to happen. That's what the goal is, making math come alive and making kids get really, really excited about it. And there's no better way to doing that than putting math and story together and taking advantage of that contextual learning opportunity that provides to you. So Math Start, I already talked about that, and there's information about it and a link to it at my website, mathstart.com. And I already indicated that there are 63 books and 3 levels, and for early childhood teachers, 21 of them are pre-K and K. And there are some of my favorite characters from the books. And we've got 5 new Spanish translations. And I think that these are really important for you to consider if you have Spanish-speaking students. I wish we had even more languages available to you, but we'll get there. And so if you could move forward again.
Sorry about that, Stuart. I got trigger happy.
There you go. There are the Spanish translations. Jack the Builder in the lower right-hand corner, Just Enough Carrots above it, Super Sandcastle Saturday, Elevator Magic, and Animals on Board. So those books are all available not only in the English editions, but in Spanish editions for your students, those of you who have a Spanish population in your classrooms. Next. And then I talked about I Say I Learn also, and you know that there are 16 stories, and there are Spanish books available, and there's the link to it at iseeilearn.com. And my publisher's listed down at the bottom, Charles Bridge. So Stuart J Murphy's I Say I Learn. So when you take mathematics, next, and have positive attitudes about it, next, and engage your students, the big story is what you get, student success. That's what we're all after. We want our kids to succeed. We want them to succeed in every subject, in school, in life, and a part of that is helping them to succeed in mathematics and having a positive attitude about math and being engaged in math. And gosh, if we can do that, what a foothold we're giving our kids, don't you think? I mean, what an opportunity that we're giving them to step out in the world. And so my objective in my talk today was to help convince you that doing that with the idea of also building their social emotional skills, and about doing both those things, the social emotional skill piece and the mathematics part of it, through storybooks. Putting math and story together is a really a wonderful way to do it, and a way I know you're all, as early childhood educators, you're all expert in telling stories. You know how to do story. And if you can do story and math, wow. Isn't that great? So thank you. And these are my links, and you can find me at these places. And if any of you want to get in touch directly, you can easily do that through my website. And the symbol is my glasses, my multicolored glasses, which I happen to have on right now. And that's that's my story today. I hope that I have met your expectations, and I hope that there are some great questions for me to take, because I wanted to make sure to leave enough time for you to be able to do that. It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
Stuart, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. And yes, there's been so many. I want to give you a moment just to take a breather and tell you about how many great comments have been coming through on the chat about, things that some of the folks are actually doing right now in their classrooms. A couple of great comments came in about how, and I used to do this as well, for example, the marshmallow and toothpick and creating 3D. And that was probably one of my first introductions to like 3D models. And of course, as children do get older, then it gets much more creative, right? But absolutely amazing. Thank you so much as well for binning and graying through some of my extra clicks. I do apologize, but we made it through. So
oh, we did it. We made it. It came out.
We made it.
It wasn't totally seamless, but it wasn't awkward either.
It's okay. We're all human. I have, before we do dive in, we definitely do have a couple of great questions, so I won't take long. But my very first question for you is actually for myself, and I'd love to know, how did you create like this connection between your writing and your drawing and math? Has this been like a lifelong thing for you? Was it a light bulb moment? How did you make this connection?
It sort of had both aspects to it. It was a lifelong thing in that kids ask me frequently when I'm in schools, when I would be in school situations, what my favorite subject was in school, and it wasn't mathematics. It was not mathematics. My art was my first favorite subject. Writing was my second, and way down the line somewhere there was mathematics. And then I started working with some kids. I had a chance to work with some kids, and found out that if I could tell them stories about math, I'll do this rather quickly. There was an early one that I was working with, an early set of kids who were called at that time reluctant learners, but they weren't reluctant at all. They were reluctant about the learning system, not about learning anything. And so I put math in the context of a store, a music store, because the music wasn't so available at that time. You had to go out and buy things like recordings and tapes and things like that. And so how would you stock a music store? What kind of percentage of the thing would be hard rock? What would be classical? What would be country and western, et cetera? And so they ended up building like these young kids building a little mini business plan for a store. Well, of course, they all wanted it to all be hard rock or something like that to start with, but then they thought, oh, we're not going to make money at that, because there are all these people who want country and western. And so they went back and forth until they understood the mix of their communities. And guess what? They got involved in percentage. They got involved in things like ratio, and they got involved in numerical work, and they were able to build a little model. So teaching the story came early to me in my career in a way. And then as I advanced in my career and my work, I realized that, gosh, if those kids could learn math more easily in stories, maybe I could write stories about math. And so there was the light bulb moment that happened where I started doing it, and started with 3 books and hoped it would be 12, and then wished it would be 24, and it built up to be 63 books, a series of 63 books.
Wow, I love that. I love everything about it. I know a couple of folks have mentioned in the chat that they've, like myself, I can say I struggled with math, and a lot of us did. Math was never an easy skill set for me to learn, and I still struggle with it daily, but I'm getting better. But having something that just really sets up a better foundation, like for example, one of your books, and just like I never even thought to think of it in that concept until much later in my life. Like I never thought that books could be so impactful in a more positive way, something like math. For you, questions. Is there too young of an age to start, introducing math concepts, and bringing, the earlier the better in your recommendation? Or what do you think about how young you should start talking about math and getting math involved in a child?
I don't think there's too young an age. I think there are too old an age. Don't wait too long. and don't wait till kids build up biases about math that are in society and that sort of thing, like, oh, it's math, oh, it's tough, and all of that, and start them early so they know that's not the case. But I think it starts right away. Let's face it, their visual language is something kids have long before they have the written language, or the verbal language, and you can start right away. I mean, you don't have to make it a big deal, it's just make it part. Oh, look at that, there's another one just like that. Oh, look at that, that's got three sides, and and you don't have to make it bigger lessons than that. Just counting change for something. You're buying an ice cream cone or whatever. Back to ice cream again. You're buying an ice cream cone or something. What do you think the change is? Can you help me make the change, or do you have do you have whatever change you need to get to be able to give me that money? And they're just, what time is it? How much more time? Great question is, how much more time is there? How much more time do we need? It's going to take an hour. We've gone 15 minutes so far. How much more time do we need? Then they won't be sitting in the back seat saying, when are we ever going to get there? They're figuring out themselves.
When are we there?
So I think you can make math part of how you talk to kids at any age. And I think the biggest caution I have is, don't overdo it. Don't make it pedantic, make it fun and funny, and just like you would a word game or something like that, rather than a hard task with right and wrong answers only. Just kind of move slowly into it, and kids, I think, can really begin to enjoy their early math learning.
So true. So true. I have a question that comes around a little bit about, and I can definitely speak for myself specifically, but having a bit of a math bias as a teacher, knowing that I had a hard time with it. Is there any way, recommendations, or, tips that you have for teachers who maybe have struggled with math? And of course, when you do, you tend to struggle teaching it a little bit as well. Any recommendations for teachers to maybe rethink their bias a little bit?
Well, yeah. That's, first of all, that's where books about math come in, because
Mhm.
I think many early childhood teachers didn't set out to be mathematics teachers, but they are teaching mathematics. And particularly now with our virtual situations, gosh, we've got parents who don't know, who don't have any experience in teaching mathematics, trying to teach math ideas to kids. Parents as well as teachers trying to do it remotely. So they're just all sorts of many barriers or hurdles to jump over, I think. And so any help that we can give parents, and of course any involvement that early childhood teachers can do. And early childhood teachers know things like empathy and social emotional skills. And early childhood teachers know reading and language skills. And to the degree to which even those like you who might be reluctant about math teaching can use books and stories. I mean, that's what the whole purpose of my presentation was.
Mhm.
Use what stories, and use those to enter into the math domain. And I think you'll find yourself very successful.
I think it's such an easy win too. And, something just so powerful that like you said, reading and math and having that story, and they just tie in so easily together, and it doesn't divert from, the story that they're listening to, or, they are learning more than just, a social emotional thing, but they're also learning the literacy side, the mathematics side, like they're covering it all in just one great place. And it's such an easy win for all. It's a fantastic way to go about it. One more last question here before we start wrapping up. How can you get some children excited in doing 3D projects in a visual art class?
I think doing 3D projects. I think doing them. One of them is the map skill thing that I already talked about. Of course, one of them is is the little stories about a little city, building a little city out of 3D objects. But I think anything. I mean, I had some kids doing. It's a lot like the example of the 3D towns I showed you, but they built an amusement park. They built an amusement park, and this was done by a teacher in Texas, by the way. So I was just a consultant to it, if you will. I was a background guy. They had read a couple of my books, and the teacher was the master behind it. And so she had the entire classroom working at that project, but on different sections. And so you don't have too many kids doing the same thing. And so she had a couple of kids, working on building things that might be rides on water, and a couple of kids building things, just models of things I'm talking about, So
Mhm.
water was a big blue piece of paper cut out like a pond, and building things that might be tall, that might have to be tall, so that you could do maybe something like a roller coaster from the top of it. And so just thinking of all the rides that happen in an amusement park, well, I don't think that there are too many kids who might not be turned on by that idea. Gosh, we're making an amusement park, and this is supposed to be math class. Give me a break. And, so, so they built this thing, and it was kind of like a ping pong table in size by the time it was finished. So a reasonably big size, and they had used things like the core of toilet paper paper rolls, core of paper towel rolls, and they had used all kinds of objects to be able to make this thing. And it turned out to be a big display. I mean, it was very well displayed, hung around for about a month or so in the school because it got so much attention. And especially that the kids were pretty young who built it, and the older kids were pretty marveling at the fact that these kids were actually able to pull this off.
I love it. This was the whole reason why I used to keep recycle, like just wash it out and keep recycle in my classroom. The kids would just do whatever they wanted with them. And sometimes it evolved into, a construction site, or it involved into a city, or involved in, into so many different things. And it was such an easy win for them. And they had no idea that they were, doing math in this case. So it's a fantastic, you've had some great stories, Stuart, like honestly, absolutely some great stories, not just your actual stories, but that you've shared with us today. Is there any, last words, advice, happy thoughts, anything you'd like to leave us with today? And as well, any other places to contact you? I know you'd mentioned we have your website, we're going to be sharing that, but any other places you might want people to
I
look
think the
for?
best place is through my website. Also, again, my email address is easy. It's stuart@stuartjmurphy.com. And you've got a link to my website that's been on the screen, www.stuartjmurphy.com. Just have to remember that it's spelled STUART, and that's got a J in the middle of it. And I think running through my website is the quickest way to do that, and to get in contact with me. And there's someone actually listening whose name is Janet Ginsburg, who lives with me out of Chicago, and she makes sure that I connect with my social media, and make sure that I get all the questions that are asked, and that I respond to them. So a call out to Janet, thanking her for that, and she'll make sure you get to me if you want to get to me. You can
No
count
pressure,
on it.
Janet, no pressure.
And then the last thing I'd kind of like to leave us with, me too, is that the big worry I have right now is what everybody's calling things like learning loss. And gosh, what a tragic phrase that is, learning loss, and kids who have lost learning opportunities and lost learning time because of the situation with the pandemic in the world, and how that's impacted upon their school experience, their social experiences, their learning experiences, the change in the way you've had to teach, the hard work you as educators have had to do this year to adapt. I just am overwhelmed by it, overwhelmed about how this year has been for all of you, and greatly admire the efforts that you've put into it to cut down on the learning loss. But it sits in the back of my head, and kind of as a heavy weight, thinking if there's anything we can do to help overcome that, to catch up, to think of ways of reinventing and regaining some of that time, we should do it. We should do it. We want our kids to really do well and really succeed. And I know that all of you put your heart into that every day of your life.
Stuart, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing just your knowledge, your stories, your wisdom, everything today. It's been such a pleasure having you on. Thank you again for being a part of our webinar. It's been absolutely phenomenal. If you pop into the chat, you're having tons of love. I'm going to take it over from here so you don't have to worry here. But let's jump into wrap up, folks, just so we make sure to get you out on time.
It's been my honor, Maria. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Stuart. You're most welcome. It's been such a pleasure. And as well, Janet, I'll shout out you as well. It's been a pleasure. I know you've been on the chat and seeing you there. So thank you. Thank you. If as well, one last plug, if you would like to learn a little bit more about Hi Mama, the childcare app, we'd love to have you, have a conversation with the team here to see, what things we can do to help you in your center. We'd love for you to check us out. So please, please, please do give us a check-in. You can actually talk to someone on our side of the team, and actually, if you'd like to join up with the Hi Mama family, they'll get you set up for what's best for you and your center. So we'd love to do so. And even if you're a teacher and you'd like to explore a little bit more, bring someone else along with you. Bring a director, bring an owner. We'd love to have you have those conversations and get involved in everything that's happening. So please, we'd love for you to do more. I know Kaya's going to pop in a link in the chat. Tell them I sent you. And just to know that if you do become part of the Hi Mama team, obviously folks here on the webinars know the webinars are accessible. There's our podcast, there's all our activities, there's our blog posts, our articles. Our support team is here to help you as well. And don't forget, we're B certified. So we're here to make a social impact and make a positive social impact. So next week, we are bringing Stephanie and Diana back from Play to Grow. We're going to be talking a little bit about kindergarten readiness. Super excited. They have a great acronym that I'm super pumped to actually jump into about being ready, especially for this year. I know the last year and a bit, almost, we don't want to say 2 years. That's never going to happen. But next year, hopefully we're in a better place. This has been fantastic. So I'm super excited to bring them back on. So. Last up, I'd mentioned this before, just quickly, please do follow us on social media, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram. You can join our Circle Time group, check out our podcast. You can give them a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you like. Some great listens have been coming out, especially the last couple of weeks. So please do check everything out. Thank you, folks. Pleasure for joining us today. It's been an absolute, I've loved every bit of it. Kaya, you've been having a blast on the chat.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I really wish Stuart was around 30 years ago when I first started learning math, but I'm really glad he's changing it for the next generation and beyond. So teachers in the chat, go out, use the resources that Stuart and his team has provided, and let's start changing the way we look at math.
150%. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and we will see you same time next week, folks. Take care.